Right, I can see the numbers are filling up now. So hi everyone, welcome to the Community Business Trade Up webinar. Just to let you know, this session will be recorded, and just if you've got any questions, please pop them in the Q&A box. It's over to you, Fabrizio.
Thank you, Summer. The next slide, please.
Sorry, I was stuck there.
Thank you. Thanks, Summer. Good morning to everyone. I am Fabrizio Chavarro, and I'll be facilitating this session, this webinar. So welcome everyone to the webinar. The purpose of this webinar is for you to find out more about the Community Business Trade Up program. And this is the second webinar that we have run in the last few weeks. And essentially it's for you to find out whether the program is appropriate to you and your organization. Very briefly, the topics that we're going to run through in the next 60 minutes, we're going to start with introductions to each of our presenters. We have two people from Power to Change and the School for Social Entrepreneurs. We will also run through the program's eligibility criteria. Then we will be spending some time going through some of the examples, how you can demonstrate that the community business, the concept and the definition of community business in terms of what the program is looking for. We will also be looking at some of the common questions that have come through from candidates and participants. Some of those questions are related to legal structures, financial records that you need to put in place. And then we will have at the end a Q&A session. We're hoping that there will be a good 20-25 minutes to run through any questions that you might have. Please, any questions, put them in the Q&A box in Zoom rather than the chat box, please. And as I said, there will be ample of time to go through those questions. Just to reinforce, as Summer said, this webinar will be recorded, so you can watch it and you can view it at a later time. Without any further saying, in terms of introductions, I'd like to introduce my two colleagues, presenters, Amber Sorrell, Program Manager at the School for Social Entrepreneurs, and she's responsible for looking after the Community Business Trade Up program. And Michael Lloyd-Jones, who is the Programs Officer at Power to Change. And these are the two organizations that will be running the program, and obviously they will be presented in detail all the different elements in this session. Without any further saying, let's jump to, I'd like to hand it over to Amber, please.
Thanks, Fabrizio. Thank you. Welcome. Firstly, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about the School for Social Entrepreneurs, who we are. So we can't fix issues like poverty and climate change and ill health alone, and that's why we exist. So we're helping 1,000 people a year to really develop the skills and the strengths and the networks that they need to tackle society's biggest problems. We run courses that equip people to start, scale, and to strengthen organisations that make a really positive difference. We might have school in our title, but we're not a traditional school. Learning with us is inspiring, it's action-based and accessible. We've been going over 20 years. We were set up by Lord Michael Young in 1997. And today we work internationally, and we've got teams across the UK and Canada and India. And we're really delighted to be running the Community Business Trade Up programme in partnership with Power to Change. And I'm going to hand over to Mike just to give you a little bit of introduction to Power to Change.
Thanks, Amber. Welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. So Power to Change is the partner which funds the Trade Up programme. SSE does the bulk of the delivery. Power to Change is an independent charitable trust that was launched in 2015 with an endowment of £150 million from the National Lottery with the mission to support community business. You can see from this graphic, this is kind of our core, these are kind of our core values, and at the heart of everything we do is about making better places through community business. And we'll talk about this in more detail, but community businesses are locally rooted, led by the community, so we're accountable to local people. And there are many different ways you can do that. They're trading for community benefit, so that's the kind of business part of community business. And there are lots of different ways you can be generating trading income, and we'll talk about that in the webinar. And generally having broad community impact, so you're making life better for local people across lots of different beneficiary groups. And there are lots of different forms that community business can take, which Power to Change have supported. Community pubs, libraries, there's a whole list of different organisations there, including energy, health and social care, housing. There's an amazing range of services and goods that community businesses offer. And you can always find out more about that on powertochange.org.uk. And then over to Fabrizio to talk about Ubele's role.
Thanks. The Ubele initiative, we are a social enterprise, and we've been supporting BAME organizations and BAME-led community groups and creating sustainable communities since 2004. We run a whole range of programs. Our role in this program is just supporting both Power to Change and the School of Social Entrepreneurs with the recruitment process and with the assessment process for this next cohort. I'd like now to ask Amber to run through a program overview. Back to you.
Thanks, Fabrizio. Yes, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of the Community Business Trade Up programme. So it's a learning programme for community businesses that are recovering and rebuilding their income from trading. So that's a particular focus for this programme for next year. It's 12 days of learning, which is spread out over 9 months, and that runs from April next year to December. So there are places for one leader from the organisation, but the great thing about this is you can bring another person from your organisation with you on the programme to really share that learning and embed the learning within your organisation. We're delivering it across England through our regional teams. So in the Southwest, London, Midlands, the Northwest, and Yorkshire and Northeast. At the moment, we're currently planning to deliver the programme online, and we will take a view on that as to what's going to happen next year. But that's how it's running at the moment. So at the moment, it's running online. You'll also receive a trade back grant of up to £10,000. So with that, you'll get a £4,000 regular grant up front, and then £6,000 is matched to any increase that you can make in your traded income compared to the previous year. So it's an incentivised grant, really to support you to kind of rebuild your income from trading. And one of the great things about the programme as well is that you'll be a part of a community of people running businesses like yours. Through this programme, we've already supported over 300 community businesses, and this year we're planning to take on another 50 community businesses. And you'll work in cohorts, so you'll work with, you'll be in a cohort of 10 other organisations in your area, and there'll also be opportunities to work with other cohorts as well across the country as well. So that's a really brief overview of the programme. If you want to find out more details, we ran a webinar and the recording is available on our website, where you can hear from a previous participant on the programme as well. But without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mike, who's going to go through some of the eligibility criteria with you.
Thanks, Amber. Could you go to the next slide, please? Thanks. So really key to this programme and any Power to Change programme is about showing how you meet the community business criteria. And it's quite an unusual type of organisation, I think, to conventional charities and social enterprises. And often we see applications that we think might be community businesses, but we're not completely clear if they are. So it's really important that you take in these criteria and hopefully come away from this webinar with a good understanding of what we mean by against each of these criteria. So I'll jump into these 4 areas of the community business. Sorry, yeah, can we stick on that slide for a moment? So community businesses are locally rooted, accountable to the local community, trading for the benefit of local community and making a broad community impact. So by locally rooted, we mean they're very much within a local neighbourhood area, as opposed to kind of citywide or a broader area. Generally, that means kind of a population of around 5 to 10 to 20,000, kind of thinking about a ward or neighbourhood level rather than across a city region or something like that. Accountable to the local community means that the way that you make decisions within your organisation is very much in partnership and in kind of ongoing regular consultation with local people, so that what you do and you deliver for in your community business is very much aligned with the needs and desires of people locally. Trading for the benefit of local community just means that you're generating trading income. You don't only have to be generating your income through trade. It's a vast majority of community businesses also generate income through grant funding or other means, but you must have some form of your income being generated through trade. And there are lots of different ways that we register trading income, which we'll talk about. And then making a broad community impact means that you need to be having an impact across a multitude of different, many beneficiary areas. So rather than just being focused on one particular beneficiary group, you also have positive impact in other areas too. Can we go to the next slide, please? So these are some of the other parts of the eligibility criteria. So you need to be based in England. Power to Change only operates across England. I think there was a question about whether this it works for Scotland, but unfortunately not. You need to be based in England. Generally, we're aiming for early stage organisations, so less than 5 years old. That's we're aiming for about 75% of our grantees to be early stage. So we will accept some organisations that are a bit older than that, but generally looking for newer types of organisations or newer kinds of services that may have been launched by organisations that have existed for longer than 5 years. Fourth point here, that we need to see a clear plan for recovery and rebuilding of your trading income. So you have to have some kind of plan or concept or idea that either you have started to deliver or have some fairly concrete plans, an idea around how you're going to deliver it as part of your Trade Up grant and development through the learning program. And that you need to have charitable purpose at the heart of your organisation. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to be a charity, but you do have to have charitable purpose within your organisation. And we could talk a bit more about that if you need some more clarity. Just pop any questions that you have into the Q&A box. Next slide, please. And these top 4 points on the slide are the final elements of the eligibility criteria. So you have to demonstrate that you offer public benefit. So public benefit means that you generate positive benefits for the general public, and your organisation doesn't directly create benefits, i.e. generally financial benefits or profits for the directors or owners of the organisation, and any benefits, any direct benefits that are created have to be indirect or incidental. You need to show how you're working towards Power to Change's social impact goals. So these are all listed in the guidance. They're fairly broad, along the lines of health and well-being, or equality, or tackling poverty. But you need to make sure that you can demonstrate how your proposal and your organisation fits into those. These are all listed in the guidance notes. You need to show commitment to the learning programme and be able to attend at least 80% of the learning programme. So that's the 12 days across 9 months. At least one person, you can nominate a second person from your organisation to join the learning programme, but at least 80% of the learning programme must be attended. And then finally, we have a minimum age requirement, which is, I hope I get this right, Amber, feel free to correct me, but I believe you need to be 16 or older by the time the learning programme starts in April 2021. Finally, these are not essential eligibility criteria, but just to emphasize that we have a priority focus for this round of round of trade up, is that we're working to encourage many more Black, Asian, minority ethnic led organizations to apply, or organizations that support communities which have a large demographic of Black, Asian, minority ethnic population in their local area. And we've been working with Ubele and Fabricio really effectively to do that, to reach out to organizations that are BAME led or BAME community supporting. We're also focusing our funding efforts on the areas in England that are in the highest levels of deprivation. We measure that by the indices of multiple deprivation, or the IMD. So we are giving particular priority to organizations that are in areas of IMD 1 to 3, and that basically means the 30% most deprived areas, and you measure that by postcode. If you want to check where your organization is, if you Google IMD, you'll be able to search the score for your area against the postcode. Next slide, please. So now I'll talk in a bit more detail about demonstrating that how to demonstrate that you're a community business. And I should emphasize at the outset that I mentioned earlier that the community business definition is often a bit tricky for charities and social enterprises to either to demonstrate that they have. So it's really important. It's really important, if you would like to have a good chance of being a grantee on this program, to focus on these eligibility criteria, and we'll try and give some good examples of how you can demonstrate these different elements of community business. So next slide, please. So the first one, locally rooted. This was about being rooted in a particular geography. So as I said, a neighborhood or village or ward level. So we want to see in the application that you have a very strong focus in your local area, rather than being across, a region or a city. You need to show how you are responding to local needs of local people. So be sure to explain, how maybe we look for how your organization was formed, or why the organization is formed, or what needs it responds to, and how that relates back to the local area, and how you try to work in the local area to solve local challenges. It's okay if your organization does trading across a broader area. That's fine. We're not going to be, you won't get any, you won't be, your application won't be harmed by, if that is the case. It's natural for trade to happen across a wider local area, but we just need to see that the focus of your organization is very much in a local neighborhood level. Next slide, please. So other things that we look for to work out whether an organization is locally rooted is to see whether a lot of your stakeholders come from the local area. So we ask questions about where your trustees are based, or what proportion of your volunteers, if you have volunteers, come from the local area, or your membership, if you are a membership organization. These aren't absolutely set in stone essential criteria, but we do look for, these are strong signs that we often look for in an application to understand the extent to which an organization is locally rooted. So if you do any of these things, it's really worth making that clear in your application. There are particular questions around local rootedness, about how you respond to the needs of local people and how you engage with local people. So make sure to take account of that in your application. Next slide, please. Accountable to the local community. Now, this is one of the aspects of the definition that we see that I think most applicants struggle with the most. And what we mean by accountable to the local community is that the way you make decisions in your organization is very much aligned and intertwined with local people's needs. So you may have particular structures in place that allow local people to have input into how the organisation is run. Those might be formal, so you might have things like a regular AGM or consultations or that kind of thing, or feedback or surveys or sessions like that. But you also might have lots of informal ways of being accountable to local people. So for example, your staff or your senior leadership teams or your trustees may live in the local area and be very much embedded within the local community and have a lot of informal conversations with different local people about what they're feeling, what their needs are, that kind of thing. And if you do have formal ways that you engage with local people on a regular basis, make sure that you say that you do those things. And equally, if you have lots of informal ways that you engage with local people, make sure that you talk about those. It can mean that you need kind of more anecdotal evidence of being accountable to local people, but it's really worth putting it in because, as I said, this is one of the areas that we often find applicants don't kind of give a particularly full answer about how they're accountable to local people. I hope that makes sense. If you have any more questions about accountability in particular, please put them in the Q&A box. Next slide, please. So this third element, trading for benefit of local people, is fairly straightforward. As I said, it means you need to be generating income through trade. That doesn't mean only generating income through trade. You can be generating income through grant funding or other means as well, but you need to have at least a small proportion of your income generated through business activities. Next slide, please. And finally, making a broad community impact. So this means that your organisation has a positive impact across multiple different areas. And it's fine if your organisation has a kind of lead focus. So you might have a particular focus on disability or supporting a refugee diaspora in your local community. But it can't be only that kind of positive impact. You need to show how you also benefit local people. Perhaps it's a community hub and you have space that's available for other people in the local community to rent out or something else. But just make sure that you show in your application how you impact across multiple areas. And now I think we're going to hand over to Amber.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, we just want to address some common questions that come up, and just to let you know the answers of these before we go into our Q&A. So a lot of people ask on what kind of legal structures are eligible. So to say up front, if you're a sole trader, you can't apply as a sole trader. You would need to establish a formal organisation before you put your application in. So your organisation must have a formal constitution or a governing document which sets out the purpose of the organisation, membership rules, how profits are distributed, etc. But in terms of legal structure, it could be a CIO, a community benefit society, it could be a KIC limited by guarantee, or a company limited by shares, a cooperative society, charitable trust, charitable unincorporated association. So lots of different kinds of legal structures. Just to note as well, if it is an unincorporated trust, an unincorporated association or a trust, then we would require you to incorporate once you're on the programme, and we'd work with you over the programme for that. I hope that's addressed some of your questions, but if you have any further questions on kind of legal structures, then do put those in the chat and we'll answer those afterwards. And then the second common question, what financial records do we need and for what period? So we are looking for some financial history from you, and we requested that is from April 2020, so April this year, so not that long ago, which would mean by the time you're on the programme, that would be a year of history. And we don't necessarily need full accounts, it could be management accounts, but what we're looking for is the history. We're looking for to see what your organisation has been doing beforehand. So if you can evidence that on the application, that's what we're looking for. And then the question kind of linked to that as well is what counts as trading, and do we need to be trading already? So we count trading as provision of goods and services in return for a consideration, which is usually money, but it could also be in kind or bartering, as long as it's quantified in your accounts. So, for example, it could be sales of goods or services to the public. So it might be that you're selling food, or you might be selling tickets, or selling training sessions in your community business. It could be that you're selling goods or services to other organisations, so courses, it could be commissions or contracts. If you've got sponsorship or membership fees with significant benefits, then that would count as well. And perhaps if you've got a building and you get rental income, that also counts as income from trading. So what it doesn't count, what doesn't count as trading is kind of donations, loans, and grants as well. We don't expect you to be 100% trading, and we also, you might not be trading already at all, and that's fine. You can apply to the programme if you're not trading. What we do want to see is that you have realistic plans to be trading over the year of the programme, and you've really thought about that. You've done your research and you've put those plans in place. Just to say that the grant incentivises you to increase your income from trading as well. So you get the £4,000 up front, which is not linked to trading, but in order to draw down the remainder of the grant, so the £6,000, you would need to be increasing your income from trading over that year. So you need to have those plans in place to draw down the grant. That's what I would say on that one. If you've got any further questions on any of those three, do put them in the Q&A and we will address them at the end of this. Can I have the next slide, please? So just to give you some ideas of how we can support you with the application, apart from doing this webinar with you. So we have a FAQ document which is available online. The link to that FAQ is on the School for Social Entrepreneurs Community Business webpage where you make your application, and the link for that is the second one down. And we will add any extra questions that have come from this webinar into that FAQ document as well. We will be sending you a recording of the webinar afterwards, and if we haven't addressed your questions in this webinar, we will do our best to answer those in the next couple of days directly to you as well. The guidance notes, do take a look at those. They should answer everything you should need to know, and they also outline the questions that you'll find in the application form, so you can prepare for doing the application form as well. So do have a look at those. If you can't find the answer in the guidance notes or the FAQ document, then do give a call or an email to us. There's our email address and phone number. Sometimes it's easier just to have a conversation, so I welcome you just to give us a call, and we'll try and help you as well. And yeah, just to reiterate, the first webinar that we held, the recording is also online on the SSE's Community Business Trade Up Programme webpage. So you can hear from a previous participant all about their experience on the programme and a bit more detail about the actual learning programme as well. Okay.
Thanks, Amber. So, right, so now we have 30 minutes, and this is the opportunity for you, for those participants. I think we have about 45 people participating in the webinar. So please, this is the opportunity to raise any queries that you might have. As you know, the closing date for applicants is coming up on the 2nd of December, so it's only 2 weeks and time for the closing date. And yes, obviously Amber have gone through all the different materials and the guidance that is available on the website. But this is the opportunity to sort of raise any queries. I think we have a number of queries so far that have sort of come through, and I'm just going to run through those. So just, as I said, just keep sending those to us. So the first query that we received is from Patrick Doshi, and there are 2 questions that this person has raised. The first one is, My CIC, my seat has only been officially registered this month, but I have been doing community work and funding it myself. Are we eligible? So we don't have a proof. So we don't have proof of any trading from previous years. So that's the first part. Would you like to?
Yeah, I can do that. So the fact that you've only registered this month, that's okay. What we would be looking at though is the activity that you've been doing at least since April 2020. So we would want to see evidence of the activity you've been doing, who's involved, but also some financial history as well. So yeah, just anything that you can put to demonstrate that your organisation has already been going, the activity has already started, and you've got the community on board. It's not just something that's just starting now. That's what we're looking for in your application.
Thank you. Thanks, Amber. The next question is from Yvonne Downs, and she said that our community business operates across London and Surrey. Does this mean that we are not eligible? Mike, or either of you could. So this is about on eligibility, basically. So their community, as I said, operates in London and Surrey. So obviously, this is about the local targeted areas. Mike, like to say something, or Amber, in relation to this query?
I think we've lost Mike.
Right.
So yeah, so what I would say to this is to go back to Mike's point in terms of local, your geographical area of benefit is what we're looking at. So who is the local community where your beneficiaries are and that you're really serving and that are part of your organisation. You can be trading broader. So if you're trading across London and Surrey in order to have impact locally within a smaller geographic community, that's fine. If it's not, if you're just operating broadly and it's not, it's to broadly impact that wider community, I would say you wouldn't be eligible. So we're looking for that local community, that you really know that community and you're working with that local geographic community as well.
Thanks, Amber. The next question is from Mike Richard. The question is, what about if your community has increased rapidly online due to the COVID? And he said many of our users are from a variety of different places. We have plans to translate this to face-to-face trading our local area. Are we still eligible? So obviously they delivering due to the current pandemic online. So
yeah, I mean, what I would say to this, I mean, I don't know enough from the question, but I would say it would depend what you were doing beforehand. If you are, located in a geographic community, and then perhaps that you have now been trading online and you've got many different users, that's okay, because that's your trading area rather than your area of benefit. So it would depend really the history of your organisation and where is your geographical community, where are your beneficiaries. I'm not sure from that question, Mike.
Could you just, sorry, my internet fell down for a second. Could you just repeat the question? Because I've lost the Q&As.
This is a community. What about if your community has increased rapidly online due to the COVID, the current pandemic? Mm-hmm. We have plans to translate this to sex. So obviously they deliver in a lot of services through online. So we have plans to translate this success to face-to-face trading in our local area. Are we still eligible?
I think, I think it's important to try and, adding to what Amber said, I think it's important to try and frame that community within the community business definition. So it's okay if you're engaging with people online if they're in your local area, if they're in your local neighborhood, and it's very understandable and sensible if you're doing much more online because of the need for social distancing. But yeah, I think the question to ask is, are you locally rooted? Are you accountable to local people? And do you fit the other criteria? That's the kind of real real way to, I think the best way to frame the question to if you want to be successful in this in an application.
Thank you, Mark. The next question is from Angela Anuforo. My organization is an incorporated association. Is that okay? Obviously, this is on legal structures.
Yeah, that's okay. You can apply to the programme. What we would expect is that you would incorporate over once you're on the programme. So to be to know that that would be a requirement to do that once you're on.
And then the next question is, thanks, Amber. The next question is from Daniel Allen. And the question is the 4K ring fence, that's what I guess, as an initial grant payment. Will this be an unrestricted grant?
Yeah, that is. We're quite flexible with the grant, and the aim of the grant is really, this initial grant is really to kind of kickstart, to get you going. So that's why we give the grant up front, and we encourage you to use it to put your learning into practice, to help you, to support you to increase your income from trading and to develop those kind of trading plans. So if you look in the guidance notes, tells you lots of information about the kind of things that you can spend the grant on, and you might like to spend the grant on, because we do ask that as a question in the application. So have a look at that.
Thanks, Amber. There is a question from Claire I think that's been taken now, Barbara Grade. My work will focus on BAME residents in response to impact of COVID-19 using wider factors of health to determine the theme. How will it be possible to relate to a local neighborhood area as almost half of the population is BAME?
I'm not completely sure.
So they work
a bit more information from that question.
They work. They're providing services for BAME residents, and obviously as a response to the current pandemic crisis, and obviously they're focusing on health. So obviously, what Barbara is asking: how will it be possible to relate to a local neighborhood area, as almost half the population is BAME? How will it be possible to relate to a local neighborhood area as almost half of the population that they're working with are from BAME communities? Can I,
it might be worth having a bit more of a conversation about that, just so we can understand a little bit more. I would just say, I mean, if you're helping local people in your local area, and if they're BAME or otherwise, then that is responding to a local need, a particular local need in a local area, and health and well-being is clearly a positive outcome and one of our social impact areas. I think relating that to the local area, I mean, it probably would need to. It depends a little bit more about the context of the situation. But if the local area does have a large population of people from a BAME background, and the local area is those are the kind of the local needs of local people, and you're responding to them, then I think that does kind of fulfill that criteria. But it's tricky to give a complete answer because I don't know the full context.
What I suggest, Barbara, is just come back to us. Obviously, you've got our email address, send us, and then we can give you a much more specific answer in relation to your case. So just send us an email, please. The next question is,
so I just say, Fabrizio, just in the Q&A box, we get a report from Zoom. So if whenever someone poses a question, we'll be able to see who asked it in the report afterwards, and we'll also see the email address from that. The email address that person used to register for the Zoom, so we'll be able to keep track of that question as well. But it's really worth following up, Barbara.
Thank you. Thanks, Mike. The next question is from Teresia Rostas. Do you need to have in mind a board of directors registered with the company house? Also, we operate in 3 different local areas. So obviously this again is sort of legal structure. So do they need to have a board of directors, and do they need to register with company house?
Our recommendation would be that you would look to have at least a minimum of 4 local directors on your board, and if you were on the programme and you didn't have that number, that you were working towards that over the programme. So obviously, yeah, we're looking for looking for you to evidence that you've got local people involved in your organisation and on your board, and the more the better. So there isn't a minimum number to apply, but we are also looking at a direction of travel, and that is the direction of travel that you want to go in as well. In terms of operating in 3 different areas locally, I think that depends what you mean by that, like how local. And it would come back. I don't know, Mike, if you want to say any more on.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, like as you say, it depends if it's one area in the west of wherever you are, and one in the north, and one in the south, then probably not. But if it's 3 local areas that are all neighbour each other, then I think that's fine, really. But it kind of it depends on the context.
Thank you. Thanks both. The next question is from Henry Batista. The question is: we are planning to purchase the community building we have run programs from. It has closed and the charity wants to sell the site. This will diversify our services and generate revenue. So I guess this is a sort of a context for this this is charity that's closed the building, and they just planning to purchase it so that they can generate some revenue. So anything to say, Amber? Obviously, it's like a sort of comment rather than a query. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure what the question is in that. Maybe Henry, if you could.
They're going to buy it, purchase an asset, a community asset, basically, that used to be owned by the charity, and the charity wants to sell it to them, and they're planning to diversify their to generate revenue.
Yeah, that's fine. That's a way of diversifying and generating revenue. So, yeah, I'm not really sure what the question is in it, but yes, that's certainly a way to do that. And yeah.
And the next question is from Anna Nije. My trading ceased due to restrictions. I run workshops and training which people pay for. However, now I have not income since, obviously because the current crisis. I have now not income since because my training is physical activity. So how do I give accounting? That's the question. How do I give accounting? Obviously, she's been running workshops, but obviously it's all been sort of face-to-face activities.
Yeah, so it sounds like, Anna, that you were operating before before the restrictions. So we'd be looking at that all of the history that you've had beforehand, and then just anything that you've got. I presume you're doing your accounts anyway. So just to give us your accounts or your management accounts, at least since April 2020. So. We recognise that a lot of organisations haven't been operating over this period, so we also provide an opportunity within the application to account for any gaps, to say how you've been impacted by COVID as well. So the more information you give us, the better. So just make sure you explain that as well, the activity you've been doing.
Thanks, Sam. The next question from Claire from Capschman Bespoke. The question is, how about if the project is a new arm of a business with new premises to be obtained in 2021 for use? So they're developing a project which is part of, it's a new arm of the business that she runs.
That sounds good. I mean, providing that you meet the other criteria of being a community business. If it's a new service and yeah, you have a plan and to develop it around trading, then that sounds good.
Thanks. The next question from Barbara Gray. The question is: BAME population live in a number of wards. Will I have to pick a group of BAME residents in just one ward? What impact would you like to see regarding impact across other groups?
So it's about being sorry, I was just pulling up the window with the social impact goals. So yeah, it depends where the people are that you're how local the people are that you're helping. It does need to be at a neighborhood we need locally rooted, we tend to mean at a neighborhood level, or, you know, across a particular local area. So, I mean, if you are working across a wider region than that, then you might not fit the criteria of being locally rooted. But there's, you know, there's always some interpretation there on our side to understand how the extent to which you are locally rooted in the local area. It's a bit of a tricky question to answer. I think, yeah, if you are focusing in a particular local area, then tell us about that in particular. And when it comes to impact, I'd like to see regarding impact in other groups. We have the different impact goals, which are all listed in the guidance notes. But for the webinar, the impact areas we have at Power to Change are reducing social isolation, improving health and well-being, increasing employability, creating better access to basic services, improving the local environment, enabling greater community cohesion, fostering greater community pride and empowerment. So if you're helping if your organization has a particular focus on a particular ethnic group, but you also do other work around perhaps community cohesion or wider health and well-being, or wider community pride and empowerment as well, then that would fit the social impact goals. But I don't know the particular case, but I hope that's useful.
Thanks, Mike. The next question is from Sylvia Fermo. The question is, I'm registered as a Brazilian community school based in London. Can I apply? And she said, we run lots of activities such as capoeira, science clubs, robotics club, drama, storytelling.
That's this. I think, yeah. Hi, Sylvia. I think we've spoken before. So yeah, this is just about. I think you're working broader in a broader community and just with Portuguese speaking community. So we just discussed about how you were working with the broader communities. That's what we'll be looking at. So where are you based? Where are your beneficiaries, and how are you providing impact and services to that kind of broader community? So I'm really happy to pick that up with you afterwards, Sylvia, as well. I know we've had a chat before.
Okay, thanks, Amber. Thanks. The next question is from Lily Viven. We have only recently constituted as a CIC organization and set up our business banking, so do not have any formal accounts yet. In what format can we demonstrate these figures?
Okay. Anything that you can provide. So if you've been just keeping your accounts on your own kind of software package, we want to see the evidence. So just give us everything that you can. You understand you're only just constituted, and you might not have the formal accounts, but just the financial records and that you do have.
Thanks, Amber. Well, we don't have any more queries. I think that's it, unless nothing else has come through. I think we have dealt with all those questions from the audience. What I suggest is that, as Amber said, obviously there is plenty of help on the website with all the guidance, but you can also send queries directly to an email address that is in the handouts. And just remember that the deadline is on the 2nd of December, so it's coming soon. Unless any other questions? One other has just come through, so I'm just going to read that one because I'm also conscious about the timing. We are almost sort of 11:30 now. That's been taken. So
I think it's worth it. It's a good question actually for Brazil. It was who can we contact for more information?
Right.
And if Summer, could you just pop back one slide, please?
Can I just one final query, and this is the sort of final one that we take from Teresia at Rostad. How many grants can you offer? Basically, that's very straightforward.
So we've got 50 places this year. So for 50 organisations, a grant of up to £10,000 per organisation.
Thank you.
And thanks. And Fabricio, just to go back to Henri's question, and for anyone else, just to re-emphasize all the support resources that are available. I really strongly suggest that that you have a good read of these. The FAQs document will be updating the FAQs using the questions that were asked today and adding them in to this document. That link is available on the SSE website and in the guidance notes. Have a really good read of the guidance notes. It has everything you need to know, the information that we presented here today and more, as well as questions that will be asked in the application form. So if you search, there's the web link, sse.org, but if you search SSE Community Business, it'll be the first result that pops up. For further queries, there's the applications at sse.org.uk or the phone number, and also the first webinar that we recorded last month. There's a couple more questions popping into the box.
I think just the final one. I think we're sort of still within the time. So this is about, again, on legal structures. Just to start that, CIC, can I still apply? And obviously, say Maria Tuland, she's not trading yet.
Yeah. Thanks, Maria. Yeah, I would just say it would depend what your the history of your organisation is. If you're literally just starting up and you haven't done any activity yet, I would say no. You're in the startup phase. But if you have been delivering activity before you registered your KIC, then yeah, if you could provide us with information from April this year, then yes, you could apply. So. If you want to pick up with me separately, then do get in touch and we can have a chat about it as well. And it doesn't matter that you're not trading again. We would just want to be seeing that you are going to be trading from April next year.
Thank you. Thanks, Amber. So I think that's all. People are sorry,
Maria was just saying, who do I contact? So on that contact. The email address and the phone number will come through to me, so Amber at School for Social Entrepreneurs. So yeah, direct them to me.
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Amber. I think we just almost 11:30, so just like to say good luck to all the applicants. And we wish you the best and good luck with it. And obviously, we look forward to receiving those application forms in the next few weeks. Remember, this webinar is being recorded, so it will be made available, I think, in the next few days. Thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you. Thank you to all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Fabricio. Thanks, Amber. Best of luck, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.